Dear brothers and sisters, in the last khutbah we were talking about avoiding the shirk, and this is the first thing a Muslim should escape and free himself from: shirk, al-kufr. And the shirk al-kufr is divided into two categories: al-kufr al-akbar or shirk al-akbar, and al-kufr al-asghar or shirk al-asghar. Al-akbar meaning the major shirk. That is what takes a person from Islam into kufr. And if a Muslim commits that knowingly, intentionally, then he becomes a non-Muslim. This is a big problem. We talked about this in the last khutbah. But we have to make sure that if we see someone committing shirk akbar and kufr, such as, there are examples for shirk akbar and kufr. Of course, like if somebody bows to an idol, that's kufr. If he humiliates the mushaf, steps on the mushaf with his leg, for instance, but with his foot, that's kufr. If he curses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is kufr. If he takes the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as his friend, this is kufr. There are so many ways, there are so many things that can take a Muslim from Islam into kufr. But if someone commits this in front of you, you cannot call him a kafir immediately, because he might not know. There are certain things that we have to know, make sure that they don't apply to him, such as al-jahl. If he doesn't know, then you teach him. Someone curses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't know that this can make him a kafir. Of course it's a big sin, and he knows it's a big sin, but you have to teach him that this can make him a kafir. So takfir al-muayyan is different from saying that committing this thing is kufr, but it is not up to a single individual Muslim to say that someone is a kafir or not a kafir. This is a big thing that requires scholars who have a strong knowledge in this religion to determine if someone has become a kafir or not a kafir. This is kufr. To change the legislation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and bring legislation of the kuffar, that is kufr. Again, it has to be determined by scholars if a single individual has become a kafir or not become a kafir. But a shirk al-asghar, the minor shirk is different. In that it does not bring a person out of Islam, but it is worse than the worst sin, worse than akbar kabair. It is worse than the major sins. Although some of the things that we'll talk about today might not seem to us that they are bigger than the kabair, such as stealing, adultery, killing. But in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these things which we will talk about today, shirk al-asghar, this is the topic of this khutbah, these are bigger than these big sins. But they don't take a person out of Islam. A shirk al-akbar yuhbit al-amal. If you committed the major shirk, all your actions and all your good deeds are gone. All your salah is gone, all your siyam is gone. Everything, all your sadaqat are gone, unless you make tawbah. And if you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with shirk akbar, you are in hellfire forever, unless you make tawbah. But a shirk al-asghar, the minor shirk, which we will mention today, it will negate the action that you are doing at that moment. If you, for instance, commit riya while you are praying, then it will make ihbat for the reward of this salah. It will take away the reward of this salah. But it will not take the reward of the previous salah which you have done with sincerity. But again, it is a major sin. Does it fall under al-mashi'ah, yawm al-qiyamah, just like the kabair? Kabair. If you don't make tawbah from kabira and you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it falls under what is called al-mashi'ah, the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah can punish you or not punish you for the kabira. It's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the general rule is that if somebody dies and he is committing a kabira and insisting on committing kabira has not made tawbah, he is in great danger that he will be punished. His only hope is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him for the kabira. But the shirk al-asghar, there is difference in opinion between the scholars. If you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with shirk asghar, and as we said, it is worse than the kabira, but it is less than the kufr akbar, less than the shirk al-akbar. Does it fall under the mashi'ah? Can it be forgiven or not? Scholars have differed on this, because Allah says, "Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi." Allah does not forgive if you make shirk. And yushraka bihi includes all shirk, akbar and asghar. So this, I think, is the major problem of the shirk al-asghar. The major problem of the Shirk al-Asghar is that it may not fall under the Mashiach of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that you will be punished no matter what if you don't make tawbah from it. So this is the biggest problem. All your sins can be forgiven except Shirk al-Asghar and Shirk al-Akbar. Shirk al-Akbar, if you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with, then you'd be in hellfire forever. Shirk al-Asghar, you'd be punished, but then you go to Jannah if you are a Muslim. So these are big differences between the two, but still, if you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sin that may not fall under the Mashiach, it is a big problem. I'll mention some ahadith that talk about, and some ayat that talk about shirk. Allah says, لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ وَلَقَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ. If you make shirk, Allah will negate and take away all your good deeds. This is a big problem to think about. To think about that all the things that you've done all your life can go away with kufr and shirk. لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ. And as I mentioned, the Shirk Akbar will take away all the deeds, but the Shirk Al-Asghar will take the deed that you have committed shirk in. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ الْجَنَّةِ وَمَأْوَاهُ النَّارِ. Whoever commits shirk with Allah, associates in the worship of Allah any other partner, Allah has prohibited Jannah for him. He cannot enter Jannah. فقد حرم الله عليه الجنة ومأواه النار. And his residence will be hellfire. This is for the Shirk Al-Akbar. This is for the Shirk Al-Akbar. إن الله لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك لمن يشاء. This can apply to both shirk. Scholars say this may apply. For instance, Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah says this applies to any shirk, Asghar and Akbar. Shaykh Islam ibn Qayyim says this applies to shirk Akbar, but he thinks that shirk Asghar does not fall into this ayah, that Allah does not forgive. So he thinks the shirk Asghar falls under the Mashiach, but to take this kind of risk is a big problem. Also in the shirka, la dhulmun azim. The greatest injustice that you can do to yourself is commit shirk. In the shirk la dhulmun azim. Hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, من تعلم علما مما يبتغى به وجه الله لا يتعلمه إلا لينال به شيئا من الدنيا لم يجد عرف الجنة يوم القيامة. Whoever learns this religion not for the sake of Allah, but to gain something from this dunya, he will not smell the scent of Jannah in the hereafter. He will not, which means that he will not even be near Jannah. To be far away from Jannah so that you don't even smell it. When you want to say someone that you will not enter this place, you tell him you won't even smell it. This is the meaning of this hadith. You won't even get to smell the scent of the Jannah. If you learn something that should be learned from the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this dunya. Also, hadith we mentioned last time, أنا أغنى الشركاء عن الشرك فمن عمل عملا أشرك فيه معي غيري تركته وشركه. This applies to the shirk al-asghar. He says, I do not need the shirk. I do not need to take something that you've associated partners with me in. Well, this is what Allah says. He says, if you perform a deed or an action and you associate someone with me, then this other person can have it, or this other entity can have it. I don't need it. Also, Prophet Muhammad says, "Man samma Allahu bihi, wa man ra'a Allahu bihi." Samma means to tell people about your good deeds, to go around and telling people so that they know that you're good. Or you do a good deed and you raise your voice so that people know that you're doing it. This is tasmiyah. And mura'a is to show. So mura'a means to come in front of the people and do something so that they learn and know that you are a good person, or that you obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to show what should be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to make people hear about it when they don't need to hear about it and don't need to see it, with the intention of gaining their respect. It has to be with the intention. If the intention is like this, this is the shirk al-asghar, this is the riya and tasmiyah. But if someone does that, and he examined his heart, and he knows that he's doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's telling the people or showing the people, and he doesn't really care about the people. He doesn't care if they respect him or not for that. He doesn't care. He only cares what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do for him, or what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will see of him. And he's doing this to teach the people, or to encourage the people. For instance, people need sadaqat, and someone comes and brings a large amount of sadaqah in front of everyone. We cannot say that he has committed riyah. We don't know what his intention is. Have you gone into his heart? We should assume that he is sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is another thing. You cannot assume a bad intention in someone because you have not gone into his heart. Prophet ﷺ says, إِنِّي لَمْ أُمَرْ أَنْ أُنَقِّبَ عَنْ صُدُورِ النَّاسِ وَلَا أَنْ أَشُقَّ عَنْ بُطُونِهِمْ. He says, I was not given the permission to open the hearts of people or their inside, or look on their inside. So this is very important, that we can only go by the outside picture, and we leave the sara'ir and niyat to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is a big problem for you to mistrust your brother, or to think badly about him in what he is doing. Ibn Abbas says, حرمت القيام الليل شهرين حرمت القيام الليل سنة بعد أن رأيت رجلا يبكي فقلت إنه يرائي. حرمت قيام الليل سنة لما رأيت رجلا يبكي فقلت إنه مرائي. He says, I saw someone crying, reading Quran or something and crying, and he said, oh, he's just showing off. Ibn Abbas says about himself, he says, I said to myself that this man is showing off. He says, from the moment I said that, I was not able to pray at night, Qiyamul Layl, for a whole year. Obviously this topic of Shirk al-Asghar is bigger than I expected, so we will not be able to finish today. But I will continue and see what we can finish today. We have to know that an-niyyah, the intention of the Muslim, can bring the action, can elevate his action so much, or can bring it down so much, according to the purity of the niyyah. The hadith of the prostitute, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave her sins for, because what she did is she just went down into a well and brought water to give to the dog. So a prostitute giving water to a dog doesn't look like a big action in our eyes, right? It's not bigger than the salah, for instance, not bigger than the hajj. But scholars say that why was she forgiven? Because she had so much ikhlas, so much humbleness for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe this woman was thinking that I am so bad that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at me that I'm so bad, I need to do something little. This is not she didn't look at this action as being big. She didn't feel al-ujb, meaning to be proud of herself. And no one was seeing her. She was in the desert and she did it sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She might have thought that this is the only thing that may save me from hellfire. She might have had so many good feelings in her heart when she did that, and that is why Allah forgave her sins. At the same time, you can do a big deed, but this big deed will take you to hellfire because the intention was wrong. So this is a bad woman and did a simple action but with very good intention, and this elevated her. But you can do a very big deed with a bad intention and this will bring you down. Just like the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, which I will end this khutbah with, in which Prophet ﷺ mentioned أول من تسعر بهم النار يوم القيامة. 3 people are the first to be thrown in hellfire يوم القيامة. And when he mentioned that, of course you start thinking, who are the first people to be thrown in hellfire? Is it Fir'aun? Is it Abu Jahl? Is it Abu Lahab? So أول من تسعر بهم النار يوم القيامة. And these people turned out to be people who are doing Muslim acts or good deeds. And what are they? He mentioned al-alim al-qari', somebody who is a scholar and recites the Quran, and he comes in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says to him, فَيُعْرِفَهُ نِعَمَهُ فَيَعْتَرِفُ بِهَا. Allah tells him about how much He has given him during this life and how many blessings He has blessed him with. And he says, oh, I acknowledge all this, I know. And then he says, فَمَا عَمِلْتَ فِيهَا. So what have you done with all my blessings and provisions for you? He says, تَعَلَّمْتُ الْعِلْمَ وَعَلَّمْتُهُ فِيكَ. He says, I have learned the knowledge of your deen and I have taught people for your sake. And look at look at the liar. It's still, meaning Allah is still lying. فَيُقَالُ لَهُ كَذَبْتَ وَتَقُولُ مَلَائِكَ كَذَبْتَ بَلْ تَعَلَّمْتَ لِيُقَالْ فُلَانٌ قَارِئ. Then he is exposed in front of himself. He's been lying to himself all his life, and then now he's lying in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he is told that you're a liar, and the Malaika tells him you are a liar. You only learned this and did all this so that people know you as a scholar or as a qari', as a hafiz. He says, فَيُؤْمَرْ بِهِ فَيُسْحَبْ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ فَيُلْقَى فِي النَّارِ. Then he is commanded to be thrown in hellfire. And then also another man who gives so much charity, money to the poor. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala فَيُعْرِفَهُ نِعَمَهُ. Allah shows him how much He has blessed him in this life, how much He has provided for him. He acknowledges, yes, you have given me so much. And then he says, فَمَا عَمِلْتَ فِيهَا. What have you done with all my blessings? He says, مَا تَرَكْتُ وَجْهًا مِنْ وُجُوهِ الْخَيْرِ تَرْضَ بِهِ عَنِّي إِلَّا وَأَنْفَقْتُ فِيهِ. He says, every way that pleases you, that you want me to spend this money, I've spent in. فيقال له كذبت وتقول الملائكة كذبت بل فعلت ليقال فلان جواد وقد قيل. He says وقد قيل. He says that you have gotten what you've done this for, which means that people have said you are generous. And the first one, he said وقد قيل, meaning that people have already said that you are a scholar. People have said that you are a hafiz, and this you have gotten your reward in this dunya. Now you don't have any reward. Take him to hellfire. And then the last man is somebody who actually was killed for the sake of Allah, or killed in the battle with the kuffar. And again فيعرفه نعمه فيعترف بها فيقول يعني ما فعلت فيقول جاهدت فيك حتى جاهدت في سبيلك حتى قتلت. I made jihad in your sake until I was killed. فيقال له كذبت تقول الملائكة كذبت فيسحب على وجهه فيلقى في النار. So this shows us that this hadith shows us that it's not by the outward picture of what you're doing, but by what's inside you, like these people. And at the same time, this prostitute who gave water to the dog, although her outward picture looks very bad, but her intention was very good. So she was elevated and these people were brought down.